live. Let me know when you're ready.
All right, folks, good morning and welcome to the Joe Mangiacotti Radio Show. I am Joe Mangiacotti, of course. Good morning, Shane.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Excellent. Everything all right with you this morning?
So far, so good.
Off to a great start?
Yes, we're here in studio and we're live, yes.
We are live. That's live radio, man, right? All right, folks, reminding you that you can join the conversation anytime. This is two-way talk and conversation radio, meaning you can reach right into our palatial but not overly ostentatious studios from the Clinton Savings Bank studios. I am Joe Mangiacotti, and it is 508-871-7000 to reach the studio, 508-871-7000. We also have our text number, and that is 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. And if you can't text because you don't have that ability, because it's not, a smartphone, but you do have an email device, just simply email me at textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. It appears on the same screen, and I'm going to pull that up right now so we can watch what is going on, and that comes in real time and appears in real screen. We do have an office number for off-air if you want to reach the show, because you have a question, and sometimes you people have fantastic ideas and great resource for information that you sent to me. I appreciate that. Keep that coming. You can reach the office at 508-603-9778 or email the office at joemshow@gmail.com. I think we covered the 411 there, Shane, right?
I agree.
All right, got all that in. All right, a lot to do today. We've got hour two. Dr. Larry Fedawar joins us as he does usually the third Saturday of the month. But we had Jerry Doherty in on the 3rd, and going forward, I'll be on Jerry Doherty's Making Money Last every Thursday, so you can join Jerry and I then when we take a break from the retirement talk and talk a little politics and analysis, because, as Jerry says, you can't really look at one without the other, so they come together. Other than that, a few things I do want to talk about. You know what, the state, and I gotta get this. Dr. Larry Fedawar, second hour. We're gonna have plenty of discussion on the impeachment and the debacle that is going on over there. A couple things of interest to me. Shane, did you see that President Trump revealed the logo for the new Space Force?
I did see that, actually.
And what does it remind you of?
It reminds me very much of a Star Trek themed logo, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I have them side by side on Joe Mangi Show on Facebook page, and that's at Joe Mangi Show. Go check it out. You see the Starfleet United Federation of Planets, and then you have the United States Space Force, and that actually says it's the Department of the Air Force. So I guess the Space Force is under the Department of the Air Force, opposed to just simply being under Department of Defense like the other branches, right? But it's the same, round logo, and they both ours. The Space Force is kind of a very sharp triangle with the globe under it, and kind of something obviously indicating the rotation around the planet. On the Star Trek one, it's a similar shape, a little more curvy, plus has the star in the middle of it, but it has the same indication of something rotating around a planet. Anyway, it's very interesting, and it doesn't take a Trekkie to see this. It's so blatant, and I don't know. I caught one of those. I don't know if you do. I watch upper cable channels. That's how I refer to these things. All those channels that are the History Channel and the Learning Channel and National Geographic and Nat Geo. All those channels. They're just tons of great shows on there. And one of the ones that they run a lot of time is the Ancient Alien Theorists. Right? I don't know if you've seen any of this, Shane, but they make these convincing cases going all the way back to Roswell that just about every president has been informed of stuff regarding contact from non-Earth entities, that kind of thing. And it just makes me wonder, why is it just Trump being Trump, or is it about time that we realize that things are going to have to start taking place in space? Anyway, I thought it was interesting. The official logo for the Space Force has been released, and it looks an awful lot like the same logo or symbol for the United Federations of Planets. The other thing that I did want to talk about, FBI arrested former top Puerto Rico officials in government corruption scandal. U.S. authorities have unsealed a corruption indictment against two former top officials in Puerto Rico, directing some $15.5 million in contracts to favored businesses, allegedly edging out other firms for the lucrative government work despite allegations of being unqualified. Now, this is on top of the fact that warehouses of water and supplies were discovered in Puerto Rico that from 2017, and they were being concealed, hidden, to make Trump look bad. This is how deranged the Trump derangement syndrome goes. So deranged that people will actually make other people suffer. Will make other people suffer to try to make Donald Trump look bad. And Donald Trump talked about, and I mean, I don't, if you think about it, when he talked about that he was being wiretapped, I don't want to get into the stupidity of that. Wiretap, nobody wiretaps. You know exactly what it is. It's a catch-all phrase meaning spied upon. And lo and behold, we find out he was being spied upon by his own government through FISA court warrants, illegally obtained. Absolutely illegally obtained. And then he says about Puerto Rico, the corruption. We sent a bunch of money there. I want to make sure. Oh, wait a minute. Think about this for a moment. Doesn't it seem like there's a theme here? President Trump was very concerned about just shipping millions of dollars of money and aid, meaning water and supplies, to Puerto Rico blindly without having some kind of assurance that the money was going to be used properly, it was going to get to the people that needed it, and the supplies would get to the people without any detours or charging or anything of that nature. And then when we were going to send billions of dollars to Ukraine, he also wanted to make sure that this newly elected president, Zelensky, was in fact what he claimed to be, and that was a reformer, an anti-corruption guy, and that he wasn't going to be more of the same corruption that we saw hundreds of billions of dollars disappear in Ukraine. Remember the chunk of money that just disappeared from the oligarch's bank? But that's where we had to put the money. And everybody was in on it. So here we have President Trump is right again. Not only were warehouses of supplies and water being ignored to make him look bad, but yeah, there was corruption to the tune of $15 million. Two former Puerto Rican leaders, Julia Keller, who is the secretary of the island's Department of Education before stepping down in April, and Angela Avila Marrero, who led Puerto Rico's Health Insurance Administration until last month. They were arrested by FBI agents on Wednesday. Now, prosecutors wrote that the indictment that the conspiracy involved the two former public officials giving 4 associates the inside track to contracts. Once secured, authorities say the contractors benefited by paying That's a kickback for you and me, if you didn't catch that, all right? Unauthorized commissions to the other individuals to lobby government for more contracts. A dynamic authorities described as a corrupt bidding process. Imagine that, all of that corruption in Puerto Rico, where people were all over the president for even suggesting that we should pay attention to the money that we're sending because there's corruption in Puerto Rico. That was racist. You ever notice that? You can't state a fact if it involves a minority of any type, because therefore you're racist. Now we have the bigotry towards politicians, because when it comes to Joe Biden, apparently, if you're running for the highest office in the land, you're not allowed to question their wrongdoing 4 years ago. That's what this all comes down to. The Democrats are trying to twist the president having a legitimate question to the president, newly elected president of Ukraine, when he said, can you do us, not me, can you do us, the United States of America, a favor, and tell me what went on with all that corruption back in 2016, before your time? Why don't you root it out? Tell me what went on there. You want all these billions to keep flowing in. What happened? We'll get into that more. Back to Puerto Rico. At a press conference in San Juan, U.S. Attorney for Puerto Rico, Emily Rodriguez Velez, elaborated. She said both Keller and Avalia Moraro took advantage of their privileged position as agency chiefs. They defrauded the U.S. and Puerto Rican governments. Federal authorities who arrested and charged Glenda Ponce Mendoza and Maria Ponce Mendoza, who are sisters who worked as education consultants. Fernando Herrera Gallet, an executive at the auditing firm BDO. Ooh. BDO, that's that, you know those commercials, Shane? BDO knows? Well, yeah, they have those big commercials where they're these big international consulting firms, right? A consultant, Alberto Valquez Benol, the 32-count indictment accuses the defendants of charging, including wire fraud, theft, and money laundering. The charges related to steering lucrative government contracts to business friends. Where have we seen this before? Well, you get a handbook when you go to work for the United States government on how to take care of your family and friends. All right, so contracts to business friends came at a politically sensitive time for the island's government, which has been trying to project a polished and competent image of themselves to Congress, as island leadership expect to receive billions, with a B, billions of dollars in recovery aid to help rebuild their hurricane after Maria. The approved aid was delayed after the Washington lawmakers squabbled about how much the island deserves after the hurricane killed nearly 3,000 people and caused billions of dollars in damage. What's wrong with that sentence or that paragraph? Right? 3,000 people are hurting or killed and hurting, and their families and their property wiped out, and they're squabbling over it because of the corruption. And they're squabbling over it because they want to make sure that it's set up that when it does come in, the billions of dollars that come in, they're getting what they consider their fair share, because after all, they're part of the cog. And they're not going to let somebody else get more graft than they do. This is coming from them. The Puerto Rican people deserve a government that takes public service seriously, that's transparent and accountable, and that doesn't let this happen in the first place. Felix Cordova, a political analyst who teaches at the University of Puerto Rico, said the corruption scandal reveals a troubling reality on the island. Really? You think so? 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phones. Richard's been waiting patiently. Good morning, Richard, and happy Chinese New Year's to you, sir.
Yeah, right. Okay.
It's the 25th, baby. Today it starts, and it's the year of the rat.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah?
Yeah, year of the rat.
That's Obama's year, right? Yeah, the thing I want to talk about. I don't know if you're aware of this, but when Nixon, when he was president, him and Jackie Gleason were best of friends.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And what he did, he brought Jackie Gleason over to Roswell, and what he did, he showed him those little.
Actually, it was in Florida, and he went over to in the middle of the night. He left, ditched the Secret Service,
right?
Went over to Jackie Gleason's house, who had a very nice estate in Florida. Said, "Come on, take a ride," and he went to a base there,
right,
where he brought him in to where there were supposedly the bodies of aliens.
Right, exactly.
And there were supposedly, and it depending on which show you watch, right, there were supposedly living aliens, like not just bodies, but aliens existing in this top secret section of the base in Florida, and where we were reverse engineering technology, and they were helping by giving us. So this is what's been out there, and it's always been a thing about, does the president automatically know? Jimmy Carter requested. Now, what's interesting is, guess who was the director of the CIA from when Jimmy Carter took office, going from
was it
Ford?
Casey?
No, it was George H. Bush.
Oh, Bush. Wasn't he the director, though?
He was the director of the CIA when Jimmy Carter took office. And in Carter was one of the few presidents that talked about his UFO experience before becoming president, and he spoke about it very plainly. And he was on the campaign trail, not for president, it was for governor of Georgia, and he was with his aides, and they witnessed together an object sitting, hovering, and then zigzagged and took off at speed that we certainly didn't possess in the early 70s.
Exactly.
Okay? So he talked about it, and actually Ronald Reagan did too. Ronald Reagan, again, as governor, was flying in a private airplane, and both him and aide and the pilots watched these aircraft come alongside, hover out, zigzag, and again took off, and the pilot said, at an angle and speed that we just don't have aircraft that move like that. And
right.
When he was talking about it, because it was a very exciting thing, and he realized in the middle of this conversation with a reporter that he better dial that back a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But the story goes, when Carter became president, he said, "Now that I'm president, I want to know.
Right.
Tell me
And
everything about it."
it.
And you know what George Bush said to him?
Yeah.
George H.W. Bush, who was director of CIA then, before he became president, he said to him, "Mr. President, that kind of information is need to know. And curiosity doesn't rise to the level of you need to know."
Right.
And wouldn't tell him anything. Wouldn't tell him anything. But then they do say there are the stories about presidents, including later on, even Jimmy Carter, when getting briefed, basically becoming dead silent, and obviously having something heavy on them, on their mind, and then just shutting it up. So these alien theorists, the theory to that is that they're saying that, look, they've been here a long time. We've been dealing with them. The deal that was struck after Roswell was that if they keep it quiet and we allow them to literally experiment on the planet and on humans and other animals, that they will provide us with some technology.
Exactly. That's where it all came from.
So,
reverse engineering.
Yeah.
But the other thing, too, is, right, real quick, another thing that you talked about, right, is basically that, you remember the $3 trillion that disappeared for the Department of Defense?
Yeah. Well, I heard about it, but I don't know where it is because,
no, nobody
knows.
But
that would be nice to know.
But the thing is, you remember now, that was in the Pentagon, right?
Yep.
And do you remember it was supposed to be a plane that crashed into the Pentagon? And it just so happened that none of the cameras, Joe, were on. Okay, they weren't working. They weren't functioning. And what happened is the plane hit right there in the spot, the exact spot where all the paperwork for that $3 trillion was, and it all disappeared miraculously. You remember that? Sorry at all? Probably not, huh?
Well, of course I remember the plan. I went to look at the Pentagon after that happened, and I remember the question about cameras, but I didn't remember anything about the correlation of the money being in that location or anything like that. Are you saying that the paperwork or the money itself was there?
The paperwork.
The paperwork. So
for the money.
the paper trail
for
the
yeah, paper trail.
Trillions of dollars. Yeah. Well, there was
point.
also look at the how much was it that went missing under Secretary of State Clinton? She has, I think it's $1.5 billion went missing on her watch. And no one follows up. The media won't dare follow up with a question.
No, they won't. They won't. But the thing is, seriously, if we investigated, right, all the senators and the Congress people, you would find corruption. It would be impossible to keep up with all the corruption that's there. And they're trying to say that, that they want to, be honest, and they want Trump to be honest and stuff like that. I was listening to the program the other day and had one of the guys, and he was talking about, this is all show and tell. And I said, no, it's not. It's not show and tell. It's snow and smell. That's what it really is.
Yeah.
I couldn't listen to it. I don't know if you did. Well, you probably have to because you got to kind of keep up with it. But I was listening to that and I'm saying, this is so far off. It's unbelievable. And it's all the same ones. I mean, they talk for 24 hours. Did they change anything? No.
No, we're going to get into this with Dr. Larry Fedor. This whole thing is it's so ridiculous. Look, they're saying the same exact thing over and over. You're right. They're repeating it and repeating it, and they're making these statements that have no substantial fact behind it or proof behind it. When they say this is what the president did, this is what he was thinking, and it's just like, and all I'm thinking is, and you're right, 100%. I always have, my office and studio at home has like 7 screens going, right, and they're some are for production, some are for the other business, and some are just news things on. But I got to tell you, I cannot make it through 4 minutes maybe of pencil neck talking. And all I'm praying for, Richard, when it comes time for the president's attorneys, Jay Sekulow and those guys, that they are just going to rip them a new one.
Oh, of course they are. But the important thing, right, if he is not indicted, right, treason does not apply. So when you have like Maxine Waters and them and Nancy, he's going to be, this is going to be on his record for the rest of his life. No, it's not. If he's not indicted, it's like if you go to court, you're not indicted. I mean, they release you. So, in other words, if President Trump is not indicted, treason does not apply. So, everybody out there, that's the way the world works.
Well, 1 minute.
She said, "Yep, thank you, Richard. Great call as always." Look, Nancy Pelosi said, "Look, he was impeached. He's going to be impeached forever, and that's all she wants to be able to do is put a check mark in the history book that they impeached Donald Trump, even though there's going to be an asterisk next to that impeachment that it was dismissed." He was exonerated. It was full of crap, for lack of better words I'm allowed to say on the air. But anyway, all right, folks, we're going to take a break. We'll come back to the phones at 508-871-7000. We're going to take a break for Out with Joe. It is Chinese New Year. Begins today, the 25th. So happy Chinese New Year's to you folks. It's something that I now celebrate in my own home because I recently got married to a Taiwanese national, which means Chinese descent, and it's recognized in my home. We'll be back in just a few moments. Stick with us throughout with Joe.
It's time to go out with Joe.
This is Out with Joe, brought to you by Nothing Bundt Cake, recently opened in the White City Plaza in Shrewsbury. Chinese New Year starts today, Saturday, the 25th. Chinese New Year, or generally referred to as Lunar New Year globally, is the Chinese festival that celebrates the beginning of a new year on the traditional Chinese calendar. The festival is usually referred to as the Spring Festival in mainland China and is one of several Lunar New Years in Asia. observances traditionally take place from the evening preceding the first day of the year to the Lantern Festival, held on the 15th day of the year. The first day of Chinese New Year begins on the new moon that appears between 21 January and 20 February. For 2020, the first day of the Chinese New Year will be Saturday, the 25th of January, initiating the Year of the Rat. Chinese New Year is a major holiday in China and has strongly influenced Lunar New Year celebrations of China's neighboring cultures, including the Korean New Year in Seoul, the Tet of Vietnam, and the Losar of Tibet. It is also celebrated worldwide in regions and countries with significant overseas Chinese and Sinophone populations, including Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, and the Philippines, as well as many North America and Europe. Chinese New Year is associated with several myths and customs. The festival was traditionally a time to honor deities as well as ancestors. Within China, regional customs and traditions concerning the celebration of the New Year vary widely. And the evening preceding Chinese New Year's Day is frequently regarded as an occasion for Chinese families to gather for the annual reunion dinner. It is also traditional for every family to thoroughly clean their house in order to sweep away any ill fortune and to make way for incoming good luck. Another custom is the decoration of windows and doors with red paper cuts and couplets. Popular themes among these paper cuts and couplets include that of good fortune and or happiness, wealth, and longevity. Other activities include lighting firecrackers and giving money in red paper envelopes. For the northern regions of China, dumplings are featured prominently in the meals celebrating the festival. It often serves as the first meal of the year, either at midnight or as breakfast of the very first day. Although Outward Joe has acknowledged Chinese New Year in the past, this year it has a great deal more significance, as I have recently married a Taiwanese national whose family, being of Chinese descent, celebrate Chinese New Year as their major holiday of the year. And therefore, I'm embracing Chinese New Year as a very big part of my home and life going forward, in hopes of bringing a little bit of home to our new life in the States together. But it's time now to check out what is hot and happening on the local music scene. To do that, we check with music editor Tina Marie Billing. Hey, Tina. What's happening?
Good morning, Joe. There's lots of great live local music to get out and listen to this weekend. Tonight, the Walking Blues Band is at the Fours Sports Bar in Framingham. The Tony Soul Project is making their debut at the Phoenix Bar and Grill in Shirley. And Back to the 80s rocks the stage at Mix 360 in Malden. The Houston Bernard Band gives you a little country at Loretta's in Boston. And the Lights Out Blues Band is at Jasper Hill in Millis. The Russo Brothers Jazz Quintet entertain at Vincent's in Worcester. And Bobby De Ricadori plays for your dining pleasure at Nuovo's in Worcester. For Sunday, Gay Prokosky will be the feature at Greendale's Sunday Jam in Worcester. Big John Short is at Vincent's in Worcester. And Sunday Live Blues will feature Ed Peabody and Chris Stovall Brown at the Union Street Restaurant in Newton. Take Two performs at the Marine Corps League in Worcester. And stop by Jasper Hill and Millis for Pete Henderson and Company's Sunday Blues Jam. That's my Music Minute for the week, Joe. Now back to you.
Thanks, Tina. For more on what is happening and for those hidden gems and fantastic finds, check out OutWithJoe.com. Out With Joe has been brought to us by Nothing Bundt Cake in White City Plaza, Shrewsbury, on Facebook at Nothing Bundt Cake Shrewsbury. Be sure to stop in and ask for Al. He's waiting on you. Mention me or Out With Joe and he'll have something special for you. Have you heard of the hottest new bakery around? I know you heard about it right here. My friend Al has opened Nothing Bundt Cake in the White City Plaza in Shrewsbury. Nothing Bundt Cake is a bakery chain and is locally owned and operated by my friend Al. They have bundt cakes ranging from bite-sized to tiered, plus platters, candles, and cards. For any occasion, function, or just to have around the house or office, stop by and check them out. Everything is baked from scratch and on site. Nothing beats a sweet surprise. And until you try one of Al's bundt cakes, you haven't tried a real bundt cake. Stop by and ask for Al. Tell him Joe told you to stop by. 98 Boston Turnpike, White City Plaza near Planet Fitness, Shrewsbury, and on Facebook as well, Nothing Bundt Cake Shrewsbury.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks, welcome back here to second segment of the first hour of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN from the Clinton Savings Bank studios. You can reach us at Well, actually, you can text us at 617-297-8388, and you can call in to our show right here into these studios, these palatial but not overly ostentatious studios, at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. Actually, before I get into a few other things that I wanted to talk about, let's go to the phones because Lieutenant Ken has been waiting patiently. Good morning, Lieutenant.
Morning, Colonel Joe. Lieutenant Ken reporting.
And what do you have for us this morning, sir?
Well, my first question this morning, I take it you haven't been pettifogging.
Did the radio just die out there for a second? Have I been a pedophile? What?
No, I take it you haven't been pettifogging.
Oh,
Queen
pedophile.
Justice Roberts
No.
dug into the history books.
No. Tell us what's about that. What did I miss?
Oh, you're not familiar with it?
No. What are we talking about? Justice Robert. Oh, wait a minute. Is this his little lecture he gave?
Yes.
I didn't catch it though. I only heard some commentation about it. Tell us. Fill us in.
He admonished the two sides and mentioned that back in an impeachment in 1905, I believe, that the justice at that time admonished the sides for pettifogging. And I guess if you go to the definition...
Yeah, that's pettifogging. I did hear that term brought up. I didn't watch him do it, but I heard the aftermath. So what is the definition of pettifogging?
It's making a big deal out of petty things.
Oh, you've just summed up the United States Congress.
Yes.
I mean, come on. If it wasn't for pettifogging, they wouldn't have a job. It's like the state legislatures, right? I mean, if they weren't pettifogging, they could do like New Hampshire used to meet every 2 years. Think about that, right? And I love any time that the state legislature isn't in session, I think that's great because you can do no harm.
Of course.
Right? They can't raise our taxes. They can't stifle us with the regulations. They can't come up with the idiotic, answers to the problems that didn't exist. So I love pettifogging's my new favorite thing. It sums up the entire Congress.
You know why the New Hampshire legislature only met every year, right?
Yeah, these people. I think they made $4,500. I think that
no.
That was like their salary.
No. New Hampshire makes $100.
Oh, is it $100?
$100.
What am I thinking of?
I don't believe that has changed.
Yeah. Is it? Maybe it's the Worcester Council people that make $4,500. I think Worcester City Councilman does that. It's something like that. But yeah, it was like $100, and then they got free tolls to go to the State House. Only to go to the State House, not free tolls all the time.
Yeah.
And I think they did get gas mileage, right, to go in and out. But they had to actually prove it. Because, in Massachusetts, you've got all these legislators who just automatically take. I mean, look at the story that came out a few years ago that people, we had reps and stuff taking the per diems, the mileage and everything, and they weren't even in Beacon Hill that day. They never left the district. But they put in for their per diem and they put in for their gas and everything. So they were padding their payrolls. Yeah. Which brings me to, of course, and I'm going to get into this, is the state audit investigation finds millions of dollars in public assistance fraud. So this is interesting because I had, and I think I've shared this story on the show before, but as you may know, Lieutenant, so I ran for the 21st State Senate seat in 1992. And this was the year, that term when Weld and Cellucci came in and changed everything up. And it was interesting because we had the 88, Dukakis had run for president, and the whole tank thing happened. And in Massachusetts, Miracle, right? Remember that? He ran on the Massachusetts, which just disintegrated during the presidential campaign. It was literally smoke and mirrors. Massachusetts was in tough shape. Weld and Cellucci become governor and lieutenant governor, and they came in 1990. In 1990, the guy who held the state Senate seat, and I lived in Natick, was from Natick, a guy named Burke, and he had been in for 22 years, I think, at that point. And he was 26 when he took office. And I was going to be 26. And I didn't run in 90. The guy who ran in 90 was, do you remember the Sarah Pryor? She's a little girl from Wayland that went missing after school, after swim class or something one day in Wayland, Mass. And she just disappeared. To this day, she's never been found. As far as I know, maybe it did happen. But her father, Andrew Pryor, he ran empty suit. He raised no money, I think $600 or something like that. Didn't do anything, and he barely lost. He almost took the seat away from Senator Burke. So he wasn't going to run in 92. So I ran in 92. And right after, the Boston Globe did a huge spread and everything. The guy announces he's not seeking re-election. So this entroubled Democratic hack that was in there, and by the way, he made this huge mistake, Ken. He filibustered against, you know the organization MAD? Mm-hmm. Mothers Against Driving Drunk, right?
Yep.
They had a piece of legislation, and he decided he didn't want it, so he filibustered against it. Well, he absolutely pissed every mother off and every MAD member off, and it was just even the Democrats in the House at the Senate at the time, and the House for that matter, had no idea where this guy was going to come from. He did stuff like that all the time. So I had instantly overnight the entire MAD organization volunteering to work for my campaign, and it was great. Then he announced, "I'm not going to seek re-election." So this such a beatable guy, right? Because the reform was coming in. They were doing all kinds of great work. They were knocking the fees and fines down, the Welch Salucci administration. And it looked great, but all of a sudden it becomes an open seat. It becomes a 9-way primary on the Democratic side. And a guy named Mangiacotti, he was an 8-year, 4-term state rep. So it's Mangiacotti. He runs from Framingham. Framingham, it's a 7-town district. Framingham is 50% of the district. Natick was the next biggest one. And then you had Wayland, Ashland and Sherburne and Hopkinton and Holliston and Medway and Franklin, all part of that district. So Mangini comes in.
It sounds like you would have been Schiff's state senator.
I would have been. Well, what happened was it was crazy because the night election, the first edition of the Boston Globe had me winning, right? Because the Framingham hasn't come in yet. Once I took all the small towns, but Framingham, who's 50% of the district, comes in. Governor Weld had already called the House to congratulate me. Then Framingham came in and knocked me out, and Mangini got it, and he became the state senator. So what they did at the next redistricting is they cut Natick in half and put half the district or half the wards, precincts in Natick over to Cheryl Jake's district. And what that did was guarantee that nobody could ever challenge that Framingham seat again. Like nobody from Natick, right? Because a couple of your precincts don't even belong in the seat anymore, right? So I missed it.
You're a victim of many things, including gerrymandering.
That incumbency that existed there. I mean, they watched that seat big time. For a 26-year-old kid running for state senate, I got to tell you, I was in the Globe all the time. They did a 5-paragraph Sunday spread on me. News stations were coming out to the office in Framingham, my real estate office and stuff, to interview me all the time. I mean, it was a very well watched. The state GOP put a lot of money behind me because they knew it was a very winnable seat, especially before Senator Burke decided not to seek re-election. Once that happened, it changed the whole dynamics of it, right? But the point is, I had said that, and I was doing okay then, right? I was a young guy, but I had family business and the real estate business, and I was still doing radio on the side. So I had no desire, right, to become a hack, to work for the state. But they did say.
So why were you running to become one?
well, I was running for the change, right? As you know, Democrats run for jobs, right? Republicans run for change, to do something.
You were too green behind the ears.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, no question about it. But the point is, I did say to them, there is one job, and the other part of this, Ken, but honestly, was I didn't want to take a pay cut. I mean, they were talking about state jobs back then. They, $45,000 to $50,000 a year. At that point in my life, real estate was pretty good in those days, and plus the detective agency and everything else. I had a limousine company then. I wasn't going to go to work for $50,000 and take a pay cut either. Except the one job I said I was interested in was an investigator for the BSI, the Bureau of Special Investigation. Now, the Bureau of Special Investigation in Massachusetts is the agency that deals with all the fraud. They deal with the welfare fraud, right? The drop locations, addresses. We've got 15 people collecting welfare checks on the same address, right? The stores who are abusing the
what
SNAP
you can do with
money.
the internet now with that.
Say again?
What you can do on the internet with that type of job now.
Well, the point is, I said, look, I will take a pay cut. I will do. This is a job I will do. If I'll be an investigator who goes after fraud and cheating the taxpayers, I'll take that job gladly. But unfortunately, what happened, because we go back to Weldon Salucci, we're doing that whole remaking everything out. So not only I went for the interview, right? I got to go up to the State House and you go next door, Ashburton Place, right? They were located in there. I go in for the whole interview and everything, and he knows the guy who was interviewing me got the call from Beacon Hill and all that. And guy was retiring, so I was going to take that position. But in the time,
like Flint for 30 years.
And well, what happened in a matter of 2 months was they took the Bureau of Special Investigation out from under the Department of Safety, meaning the police agencies, right? And they put it under Health and Human Services. And not only were they not going to fill that retiring job, Ken, but they cut like 16 investigators from the budget. Now, I always said, first of all, the fact that I lost that job, okay, it didn't hurt me at all. Like I said, I was willing to take a pay cut because of what the job was. I was actually going to get people who were stealing from the taxpayers. So I was fine with that. But what they did is they cut positions that actually made money. I've said this hundreds of times on this show. If you put an investigator out there, pay them $75,000, you can't tell me that they're not going to uncover at least 4 times their salary in fraud and scams. A matter of fact, make it part of their job. They have to justify their existence. You can't tell me that when an investigator couldn't find welfare for when we find these dealers, then they get busted. What do they have besides cash and drugs on them? 20 or 30 EBT cards. Right? Why? They've been used for money. They're either collateral or they're given over with their PIN in exchange for 50 cents on the dollar. And what about the bodegas? Well, this is what I'm talking about, because I have this story that we're going to talk about in a minute, but phones are lit up and going crazy. But I thank you very much for the pettifogging. That's our word for the day, by the way.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else before I got to let you go, Ken?
No, we'll catch on tomorrow.
All right. Awesome. Very good, sir. All right. Thanks. That's Lieutenant Ken. Always a fantastic call, folks. Always a fantastic call. 508-871-7000. Let me go to the phones because you know it, folks. You've heard it here that they're popping up all over the place. The New England for Trump stores. As a matter of fact, if you go to Facebook right now, by the way, we are live streaming on the Joe Mangi Facebook page. So if you go there, you'll have a camera going into the studio, and you can check out what the studio looks like. You'll see me behind the computer, behind the microphone. And what am I wearing? I have my Trump camouflage hat on and my hoodie Trump on. Keith, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. How you doing?
Good. Have you gone to Facebook and checked out my outfit this morning?
I have not, but I'm going to take a look at it.
I'm telling you, I'm New England for Trump walking billboard here. You know what I'm waiting for? I'm waiting for the fedora.
The fedora. You know,
You got to get me a fedora, a Trump fedora.
I do. I do have a fedora for you. I do have it.
All right.
I have it set aside.
There you go.
You got it.
We got to do it. How we doing? How we doing, Keith? What's going on with the stores? You still busy?
We're doing good. Yeah. I actually sent you a couple of texts on the text line. I don't know if you get pictures, but we have a new item that came in this week, the Trumpy bear that everybody was asking for. It's pretty big. It's got a USA cape, kind of like Superman, and that's available at all our stores now. And we're also getting in this week. We're getting a new Valentine's Day coffee cup, which I sent you a picture of. It's really cute. It's got a picture of Trump on it.
Are you sending it to the text line or to the messenger on Facebook?
The text line, but I can send it to the Facebook.
All right, because I didn't get it on the text line yet.
Oh, okay.
Because
All right,
it's in front of me, but I'd love to. So we've got the Trumpy bear with the cape, and then in a Valentine's Day.
This week is a coffee cup, and it has a picture of Trump on it, and it says on one side, "I want you on my side of the wall," and then on the other side it says, "I wouldn't deport you," and it's got a picture of Trump blowing a kiss. So cute.
Love it. You know how much this stuff pisses people off. I'm supposed to go to another Christmas party for the family, right? Just the siblings, right? My sisters and I. And I'm debating whether or not I'm going to wear this Trump hoodie, because it's just, with the exception of one sister, they're all very anti-Trump. As a matter of fact, I don't even talk to one of my sisters anymore because she thinks I'm a racist. You know,
well, isn't
the guy married to the minority. I'm a racist.
Yeah,
You know,
unbelievable.
Crazy, right? But that's good. So you 5 locations, and you're still looking for something that will work in the greater, Central Mass, Worcester area, right?
Yeah,
that's the question I get all the time, Ken. Oh, well, does he have one around here? One around here? And I'm like, well, Bellingham's not that far, right? You can go down the street to Bellingham. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. And we're looking. We're going to be expanding probably sometime in March, April. We're going to be expanding out that way. We'll get something going out there. It's just right now is it generally the slower time for retail, and it's been a big rush for Christmas. So we're just taking a breath and kind of evaluating things and getting staffing and everything ready for the expansion.
Fantastic. All right. Again, your hours are 11 to 6. Right?
Yep,
7. And is that closed? Okay, so Mondays are the only days you're open on the Sundays.
We're open Sunday. Yeah, we just closed Monday. That's all. 11 to 6 every day. And one more thing, we have we're going to be getting in with a lot of requests some doggy items. So we're going to be getting in some dog collars, dog leashes.
Oh, Teddy's going to love that. Oh, he just popped up when he heard me. He said Teddy. He just sat right up. Teddy. So what about collars and leashes? What about sweaters or,
Yeah, a sweater or a jersey we're looking at.
All right.
Yeah,
awesome.
one of the two. I got to see what they come out as, how they look and stuff like that. But, yeah, it'll be good.
Fantastic. All right. Anything else we want to know before we got to let you go?
And one last thing we're working on, actually. We just started doing this promo. So we've had several companies come up, well, not companies, several groups come up and that are doing standouts. And what we just made an arrangement with one of the groups is that anyone that comes in to buy product that tells us they're buying product for the specific standout, we're going to donate 10% of any of the sales that come from anyone from that group to a charity of their choice. And there's one particular that's coming up that we're going to do that with, and we're going to be donating to this charity that they have. So we decided we're going to do that pretty much company-wide. So if any groups that are looking to do standouts, please contact us through the Facebook, or you can call myself. My number is 401-323-7197, and I'll be glad to talk to you about how we can put that together.
Okay, so this is to stand out in front of your locations.
No, the
Oh.
standouts. They go out. They go on all over the place. Like there's going to be one tomorrow up by the Cape where there's going to be 30, 40 people that are going to be out there waving signs and waving at cars going by. So when they do these standouts, a lot of people need product. They want to buy a hat. They want to buy flags. They want to buy. So whatever they're buying for that specific standout, we're gonna keep track it, and we're gonna put that money, and 10% of the sale is gonna go toward a charity of the group's choice.
Got it. Fantastic. All right. Well, that's awesome. And the best way to really reach you is either directly on the phone number there or go to the Facebook page, because that's you use that for a lot of communication, right?
Absolutely. Facebook page is great too.
All right. Fantastic. All right. Thank you, Keith. Awesome. Good news as usual. Take care, man. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation as we start to wrap up hour one of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Clinton Savings Bank studios. Let's go to the phones. Jean, thank you for waiting patiently. Good morning, dear. You look marvelous.
Is Keith still listening?
I'm sure he is.
Oh, Keith, I think it's great. I think that it's one of the things, Keith, just to let you know, because this station is
3 minutes, and send me Dr. Larry's number in the chat if you can.
It is so unique, and they love you, as you know. They love good people, Keith, and we need more of them. A few good men, it's getting fewer, and we thank you for what you're doing. You're wonderful. One of the things, Keith, I offer to do, I have a big mouth, and I use that at times, as everybody knows, to say things emphatically, Keith, because somebody's got to do the dirty work. I don't get paid for it, but my retirement plan's out of this world. Speaking of out of this world this morning, Joe, I mean, and we had an encounter one night everyone thought they saw a UFO land. This was years ago that all the cars stopped. We saw this big bright light in the field surrounded by trees and everything. Everyone was stopping. We saw it. It came down in air.
Oh, wait a minute, Gene. The UFO, when was this?
Everyone had stopped. It was by something country club, Sutton Country Club, that area back when it was years ago. It was back when I was in my 20s, Joe. And it was so real. We all saw it, Joe. And everyone stopped along the way. Everybody. We saw it.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what? All right, what's your take on that, Gene? Do you see my feeling on this, folks? Before I get too many more inundated with this stuff, is I think it's awfully arrogant for us to think that out of the infinite space out there in the universe that we are the only intelligent life form at all. We've already found bacteria on Mars and the moon. We know that there's life existing off this planet.
And water.
Yeah. We've found it. We know it. But to think that we're the only intelligent life. Now, does that mean that they're made up, they look like us, and they're made up like that?
We got Dr. Larry. 1 minute.
We breathe the air we breathe. Look at our salt content is exactly the same, salt content as the ocean. We're a product of this planet. We were formed to live on this planet, which means that the other life forms would live on whatever, home planet it is to them. But there's got to be some other civilization out there. Now, maybe they're millions of years behind us or millions of years.
40 seconds.
I don't know, but I just think it would be arrogant, Gene, to say that we're the only existing life form in the entire universe.
Well, Joe, as you think that, I think it would be arrogant not to believe that there is a God that has
25.
Because
but
we
Gene,
are so arrogant.
We have 15 seconds. I got to go. Sorry, but you know what, Dr. Larry, why don't you stick on, because Dr. Larry is coming after the news.
Yes.
So I've got to say this is enough for hour one of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Clinton Savings Bank studios. Stick with us. Back with Dr. Larry Federer on the other side.
WACE Chicopee and WCRN Worcester.
Okay.
Prosecution rests. Defense begins. I'm Christopher Cruz. Democratic House prosecutors have wrapped up the presentation of their case against President Trump with an impassioned plea to the Senate to do the right thing. House Intelligence Committee Chairman and lead prosecutor Adam Schiff.
But if we are to decide here that a President of the United States can simply say, under Article 2, I can do whatever I want, And I don't have to treat a co-equal branch of government like it exists. I don't have to give it any more than the back of my hand. That will be an unending injury to this country.
The president's lead attorney, Jay Sekulow, told reporters his client has done nothing wrong.
No, there is no obstruction of justice. Like, you know, they said this, by the way, that was an interesting thing. This is worse than this one. This is worse than that one. Bill Clinton was, there was an allegation of obstruction of justice. There's no obstruction of justice here. Abuse of power, obstruction of Congress. For exercise, you don't get penalized for exercising constitutional rights.
The defense begins presenting its case at 10 a.m. Eastern. Some reports say it will go on for about 2 hours. Officials in New York City are preparing for the arrival of the coronavirus, says correspondent Steve Kastenbaum.
Public health officials here are conscious of the fact that the largest Chinese population outside of Asia is in New York.
We are preparing on the assumption that it's not a question of if, but a question of when we start to have cases of coronavirus.
Mayor Bill de Blasio urged anyone who traveled to the Wuhan area or has been with someone who traveled there and is now showing coronavirus symptoms to go to a hospital immediately.
Rescue workers in Turkey today are searching for survivors from a strong earthquake that hit in the country's east late last night. At least 21 deaths are confirmed. Turkey sits on top of 2 major fault lines. Earthquakes happen often there. I'm Christopher Cruz.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry's starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter 6655 at checkout. That's harrys.com, code 6655.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Lavache, you're all set with your mortgage. And I assume you understand what you just signed.
A stack of papers, George?
That's right. And for future, just call this number if you need anything. And, ooh, yeah, I'm gonna need that pen back.
The mortgage process can be confusing. Looking for the right rate, the right term, and most importantly, the right place to get your mortgage. At Clinton Savings Bank, we are committed to getting the mortgage that's right for you. You may even receive up to a $750 credit off your closing costs. Plus, right now, you can lock in the rate from your pre-qualification for 90 days while you look for a home. So what are you waiting for? Definitely not this.
Oh, boy. Hi, Mrs. Lavache. How can I help? You're breaking up. Try again later.
Subject to credit approval. Offer may be withdrawn at any time. For complete details, exclusions, and credit costs and terms, call 888-744-4272. Apply at ClintonSavings.com. NMLS number 422081. Member FDIC. Member DIF. Equal housing lender.
This is Wes Oliver with Prestige Home Mortgage for Handling Change. Join us for Handling Change today at 7:30 or on the web at handlingchange.info.
I want to tell you what Cantiani Insurance has been able to do for me and Teddy. We stopped in to see Paul Sr. and the great staff at 318 Plantation Street. They've been handling my car and business insurance for years. Teddy was making his way around the office, and they let me know. They now offer pet insurance. For a fraction of what one visit to the vet was for Teddy, they could cover him for a whole year. I know you treat your furry family members like any other family member, and as well as I do Teddy. The professional staff at Cantiani's has been providing courteous service for over 40 years, with integrity and personalized service, making sure that your insurance actually protects you and your family. With 2 locations, the 318 Plantation Street in Worcester and East Douglas Insurance Agency, located at 306 Main Street in Douglas. For home, auto, business insurance, and now pet insurance, click CantianiAgency.com or call 508-791-2088. 1 minute. 791-2088.
So, are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system, and get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger-looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com, and like me, you'll be glad you did.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Our topics are large and small. When you really need to know, we are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to Joe.
All right, folks, welcome back to Hour 2 of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Clinton Savings Bank Studios here at WCRN AM 730 and our sister station AM 730. Actually, I just said it's 8:30 over here and 7:30 at WACE, folks. Let's get that straight. AM 8:30 and AM 730 from the Clinton Savings Bank Studios, 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. We also have our text line up and working, so you can text us from any device at 617-297-8388, and it appears on a screen here in the studio. And if you can't text because you don't have a phone but you have an email ability, right, just email me at textjoeintheradio@gmail.com. Appears on the same screen. You guys like to use that. And a lot of people who don't want to call in, but they do want to put their 2 cents in, fantastic way to do that. I appreciate it here. This is just how we roll at the Clinton Savings Bank Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Joining me now, as he normally does, once a week, or once a month, Dr. Larry Fedawar. Good morning, Dr. Larry.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
I'm just fine.
Here we are. First of all, Happy New Year. And it's been so long since I've talked to you. Happy Chinese New Year, which begins today. It's the year of the rat, January 25th, and we're off and running. Did you realize that?
I actually did. I was reading something about that yesterday.
There you go. Yeah, I'm the year of the horse. So, they have the 12 zodiacs, but year of the rat begins today. I did the traditional Chinese dinner thing last night, home cooked.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I got married in May, and I married a Taiwanese national.
Oh, really?
So Chinese. So now Chinese New Year is a holiday that is recognized and embraced in my household.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because they do it. It's like, for them, it's a Thanksgiving without the commercialism and the pressure. But it's really about, on either the eve of or the day of, you get together with family and friends, and you do spring cleaning. Everything is about getting all of the old clutter and all that out to make way for good luck and good fortune, and then the red envelopes that you exchange. So it's pretty simple, but the only thing I wouldn't try, Dr. Larry, at the table was the chicken feet. I couldn't bring myself to that. I mean, once it's done and it's cooked properly from scratch, they look fantastic because they're in that fantastic, rich and thick peanut sauce. But I just knew that they were chicken feet, and couldn't do it. Sorry. Everything else, no problem. Everything else was fine, but except for that. We've got a lot going on. I before we got into the impeachment and stuff, I had made reference to, alluded to this story in hour one, Dr. Larry, and bear with me because I didn't get to it, but I was about to talk about it and ran out of time, and I had shared the story of being offered back many years ago after I ran for state senate in Massachusetts and lost to an 8-year, 4-term state rep in the second largest or the largest town in the district. Long story short, the job I was willing to take was working for what we call the Bureau of Special Investigation in Massachusetts, and that is the department that their only job is to go after the fraud. They go after the welfare scammers. They go after the food stamp scams that you have going on, right? You go into the bodega, you let that guy charge the Commonwealth of Massachusetts $100 goes into his account. He gives you $50 in cash. He just doubled his money. No meat or food is exchanged whatsoever. It's a cash deal. That's fraud. So I was willing to go work for the Bureau, the BSI, Bureau of Special Investigation. But they cut that department, right? And they moved it around, cut it. And so I was saying the most ludicrous thing in the world is to cut the one position that can make you money, that even a half decent investigator is going to find 2 or 3 times their salary in fraud in any given year, probably any given month. So this story comes out from CHICOPEE, Massachusetts, where a recent state auditor investigation from the state auditor's department identified millions of dollars in public assistance fraud during the last fiscal year. Now, don't call me surprised. I know that's going on. So they found out that this has become a serious problem in that area. The tax dollars support public benefit programs like SNAP, which is the food stamps, and Mass Health. Everybody gets universal health care in Massachusetts. I don't know how familiar you are with the Commonwealth and how we do it here, but we have this thing called Mass Health, and it's on a sliding scale. So your premium could be nothing or it could be $6 a month. It all depends what your circumstances are. Well, more than 50 million Americans participate in public health benefit programs, but last year the State Auditor's Bureau of Investigation, again, BSI, identified nearly $12 million in public assistance fraud. $12 million. And they cut these positions. These guys who make, $47,000 a year, but they're saving millions of dollars. But no, cut the guys who actually can find the fraud. Eric Downing told the news that I've had public assistance in my life, and there are people out there that are in need. And for the people to take advantage of that, it's a horrendous act. So they go on to say that the DTA referred more than 3,444 cases to BSI in fiscal year 19, in addition to 1,702 referrals that were outstanding at the start of fiscal year 19. Of those 3,828 investigations completed, 60%, or 2,300 of them, were determined by BSI to have no fraud present. But Tim Dooling is deputy auditor and general counsel for the Office of the State Auditor, and he told the news that, yes, it's a problem for every dollar that's paid out to a fraudster. That's a dollar that does not go to legitimate who need or entitled to the public benefit. BSI is focused on maintaining public trust in these public benefit programs. Well, the Mass Office or Executive Office of Health and Human Services, which now oversees BSI, says in a statement, they said in fiscal year 19, the Department of Transitional Assistance and Mass Health proactively identified and referred approximately 4,600 cases of suspected fraud to the Bureau of Special Investigation for investigation and enforcement. Agencies conducted comprehensive checks to ensure the benefits are received for those, my computer screen just moved, for those who are eligible, and work closely with the Bureau of Special Investigation to identify and address any potential fraud across the programs. Our priority is ensuring the essential benefits are available to the families and individuals who are eligible for them. In nearly all of those receiving public assistance, our benefits are extended to meet their families' basic needs. So 1 of 9 residents in Massachusetts, including children and elderly persons with disabilities. There are currently 454,546 people on SNAP households, 31,000 transitional aid to families, 19,200 emergency aid, and multiple types of health care insurance, 1.8 million of residents in Mass. So they've uncovered and identified fraud in 400 cases and amounting to $12 million. That was the story that we had to get out. I don't know what it's. You're in Virginia, right? You're in the other Commonwealth.
That's correct.
Yeah. So what do we have? Virginia's a Commonwealth. Pennsylvania's a Commonwealth. Mass is a Commonwealth. And I'm missing one, right? There's 4 Commonwealths. I forget the 4th one. But anyway.
Pennsylvania, I think.
Pennsylvania, yeah. So is this something that you're aware of in Virginia as well? I mean, it's just Massachusetts has this incredible problem, and I'm sure all states do, but we continually get these cases where, we find the police will make an arrest for, say, a drug dealer, Dr. Larry, and they've got a dozen or 2 dozen EBT cards on them, meaning the food stamp cards, right, that they're either taking as payment for drugs or they're using them for collateral to be held or whatever the case is. And then they have people that we find who have multiple cards, same person, they just have taken it out in various forms of their name. So they're double dipping, triple dipping, right? They're getting benefits 2-3 times over by just using different identities. We see this going on. We've got addresses that are used as drop addresses, right? Drop boxes. I don't know if you ever heard that expression, where they get a property and everybody uses that as their address. Matter of fact, just a couple of years ago, here in Massachusetts, they got it in there, the powers to be, and we're very slanted Democrat in Massachusetts. They are basically all Democratic appointees throughout state government. And they said, well, what we'll do is with all of these people that are collecting benefits, we'll send out voter registration, automatically register them. So we get more Democratic. They're going to vote Democrat, right? Because they're getting the benefits. They're getting the freebies that we're giving away. Well, the problem with that is when they did this mailing, they had thousands of them returned undeliverable. The person doesn't live there anymore. In other words, all these people who are magically collecting their SNAP benefit, they don't have to go to the office to get it. They don't have to get it sent to them in the mail. It's just like a credit card, doctor, and it's just the state taxpayers just automatically digitally fills it up with money every month, regardless of where they are. So they can use any address. There's no cross-checks, no verification of that. And now we had a case last month that we're finding EBT cards from Massachusetts being used in Las Vegas at casinos and finding them in Hawaii to be using for cash advance and to buy food. So this is just a topic that really bothers me here in the Commonwealth because nobody talks about fixing it. Nobody wants to fix it. And anybody that talks about, you try to talk about fixing it, and guess what? You're a racist, right? You're a bigot, right? You hate everybody, and you must be a Trump supporter if you don't want fraud, and if you don't want the taxpayer of the Commonwealth being ripped off. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that welfare fraud is pretty widespread. There was a huge case of Medicare fraud that was that came to light here just a couple days ago, and I don't think it's unique to Massachusetts. I think it's very widespread, and frankly, it's to a large extent, I think it is tied to the one-party control has been going on for generations now in most of the big cities in the United States. And that leads almost inevitably to corruption. And I think that's part of what's happened. I don't know what the answer is, frankly. I think the answer is you got to clean house politically every few years.
Agreed.
I think if we did that, we'd probably be quite a bit farther advanced.
You know what? I agree. And the problem with that is the power of the incumbency is so great that I think that, and there are a few things that are pet peeves for me or causes I'll fight for, and term limits is one of them. I really think we need to put those in. And I didn't used to be like that, Dr. Larry. I used to go with the line, look, we have term limits because you can vote them out. But I also know that and seen it and watched it time and time again, years as a reporter, as a news guy, and then talk show host. I've seen it. The power of the incumbency is so great that it's an insurmountable advantage that most cannot overcome, so that we need to do that. And I'm behind these movements to implement term limits both federally and statewide as well. So there's, that I'm behind. The other areas, by the way, that I have is, of course, legal immigration being legal and illegal immigration being cracked down, and voter ID is another area that I just don't understand why we do not require identification to vote. To say that that's racist is beyond me. I just don't know how you make that leap to it, right? These same people that you're saying that we're being unfair to are the same people that have their identification card. They got their EBT cards, and they put your picture on those cards. They do in Massachusetts, Doc, right? So there's a photo ID right there. They don't even ask for a piece of mail. But voter fraud is being made possible by voter ID, or lack of voter ID. So these are a couple of areas that really bother me. And I don't understand why. So what you're saying, I agree 100%. One of the ways to get to having a consensus in, say, the state legislature to stop corruption is to by change. And who was it? Was it Mark Twain who said politicians and diapers need to be changed often and for the same reason? I think it was Twain, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I certainly agree wholeheartedly with the idea that we should have voter ID, and I think it's pretty obvious why the Dems are so adamantly against it, because they do it all the time, and they if you have power, it tends to corrupt, and if you have absolute power, it tends to corrupt absolutely. I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Absolutely. And it's funny because this is what these House managers in the impeachment trials are saying, that power corrupts, and that President Trump is doing nothing but using his office and position to better himself for personal use, leaving out the fact that he went from an estimated $4.5 million worth down to $3 billion. So he's lost $1.5 billion in worth since becoming president, and that he doesn't take a penny in salary. And I honestly believe that he is a man who does put America first, who does care about this country more than anything else. And I don't think for a moment that he's putting any kind of personal gain ahead of what's good for the government. Look, we've seen the economy. We've seen the stock market break all these records. And all of this, Dr. Larry, was done before the historic signing of the USMCA and the phase 1 of the China trade agreement last week, and the media glossed over those. These are huge accomplishments, and they're going to guarantee good economy for the foreseeable future. I mean, look at what was established. Virtually no unemployment, lowest unemployment for Latinos, blacks, and women in the history of record keeping. The largest or the quickest growing income is the lowest. The blue collar worker, the low echelon, is growing. Their income's growing the fastest than any other sphere. And the average household has increased their income by $4,000 under this administration.
Yeah, they're saying 10,000 now.
Not 10,000. And where it's only going to get better with these two historic trade agreements.
Well, they're a fresh wind, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you have a sailboat and you've got a good wind comes up and then it begins to die down, and
right.
You are hoping for a fresh wind to come along and start things up again, and that's exactly what this is doing. Well, people were talking, if you recall, a year ago, everybody was talking. Not everybody. The establishment economists were talking about we're got to be headed for a recession because that's just the nature of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that's this take all the wind out of that argument. We're now on the second wave of a whole new adventure, a whole new episode in the prosperity story. So I think and the other thing is it's unprecedented in American history, and we've never had anybody that has tried to or has succeeded in getting the Chinese to come to the table and to actually do something that is very beneficial to us. And the reason is because he has done something I consider very, very imaginative, and that is using tariffs as a way to get people that don't want to talk to you to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, nobody's ever done that before.
And that is a great point. And I've said that, I agree with you, and I've said this before, that he has done. And it's like your father, threatening you with doing your chores and behaving to get your allowance. And he's used the tariffs to bring China to the realization that they've got to actually get real and enter a trade agreement that's fairly fair. And the one area that's out there is the whole intellectual property thing, which they've been stealing for years from us, right? And he said, look, this is phase 1. And if you follow through with everything that you said you're going to do here and you behave, you're a good little boy, I'll take more tariffs off. But if you don't follow through, I'm going to crunch you with them. He's used tariffs very strategically. Look at what has happened with Iran. He's been doing it with Iran. Iran is crying uncle. The crying uncle. Now they're saying, oh, no, 1 minute. We're going back into nuclear testing and development because of the crippling sanctions that you have on us. And we're saying, behave like a normal nation, be a good boy on the international roundtable, and you'll be treated like an adult. But Dr. Larry, we're coming up to the mandatory break at 7:30, so stick with us here, right, through the break. Come back on the other side. I think we've got some phone calls at 508-871-7000.
Sorry, we still got a minute and a half, but whenever you want to take a break.
Dr. Larry is online with me. I didn't catch that, Shane.
It's up to you. Whenever you want to break, it's up to you.
Cool. So if you want to join the conversation, 508-871-7000. And, of course, you can text us on a text line at 617-297-8388. Let's take a break for Handling change. Brian Carpenter from One Worcester Homes is going to jump in here with me for a second. We're going to talk about how this crazy New England weather can affect the marketing of your house. From the Clinton Savings Bank Studios, I'm Joe Mangiacotti. We'll be back in just a moment. Good morning and welcome to Handling Change from the Cantiani Insurance Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Brian Carpenter of One Worcester Homes joins us this week. The purchase or sale of your home or investment property could be one of the largest challenges you have, and Brian can help you handle those challenges. Good morning, Brian.
Morning, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you for being our real estate expert. And on that note, I have to ask you, because this is kind of, New England, right? If you don't like the weather, wait a minute, as they say. Well, how is this winter different from last winter?
So it was lining up to look just like last winter. Inventory shortages, problems finding properties for your buyers, and then we had that crazy weekend a few weeks ago. The weather got really warm, and it feels like there was a nice bump of properties that we probably shouldn't have seen until spring.
That's interesting. Those were inventory that should not have been out for months, but what is it? The weather alone was enough just to trigger people to say, throw it on the market?
I don't know that there was anything else that really affected it. People probably took that day and cleaned up a little bit and looked around, and we're obviously as agents really pushing people who are going to sell in the spring to get it listed now because there is such a shortage of properties.
There is. So inventory is still low.
Even lower than last year.
Wow.
Even with that extra bump we had, it's still lower than last year.
So clearly a seller's market.
So normally I would say yes. The definition of a seller's market is, when there's more buyers than sellers. But the unusual thing that's been going on for the last few years is money is still very inexpensive. Typically in a seller's market, interest rates are going to start rising with instability in different parts of the world, and not so much here because the economy's been really strong, but in other parts of the world there's been enough instability to keep mortgage rates really low. So people are refinancing, people are buying investment properties with money they've pulled out of their regular property. It's less expensive to buy a house now than it is to rent sometimes.
So let me ask you this. Who has the advantage in the current market, the buyer or the seller?
So the buyer's going to be able to get an inexpensive loan, which is good for them, but the advantage is definitely still with the seller. If you push a seller too hard, they're just going to walk away from you and grab the next buyer. So it's definitely important as a buyer to understand your limits, trust your agent when they say don't ask for that extra piece of furniture, don't ask for that repair, don't ask for that extra $1,000 off, because you lose a property over something small like that. If you love the property, you got to find a way to make it work now, because it could be 6 months, or I've gone as long as 18 months before we found another property for someone they liked as much as the one they missed out on.
Well, the key, I guess, and you've told this to me before, Brian, is really pricing a piece of property correctly. And if a seller has a property that hasn't sold in the first 10 days, should they lower the price?
Normally, I would say it's time to start looking at it. If you're not seeing traffic and you're not getting people through the property, you have to get people through the property in order to sell it. However, the market's been so crazy now that as long as your numbers make sense and you priced it correctly, I really don't think there's a reason to freak out and start dropping the price by $10,000 or $20,000. There's buyers out there. Someone's going to come and find your house, and someone's going to like it enough to put a strong offer in on it.
And just like when you make an offer and you make it an attractive offer, can a seller offer certain things without affecting the price or changing the price that makes it a better deal, a very flexible closing date, or throwing in some closing costs or something like that?
So they certainly can, but it's not in a market where they should.
Got it.
Sellers really are in a position where they can hold their line. They can get the money that they should get for the property. They shouldn't be giving away extra things. They shouldn't be giving away extra money. They're in a position where if the first buyer won't pay what the property is worth, they should really wait for the second buyer.
Let me ask you, I guess, the $1 million question. When will there be more inventory?
So it's been a little bit unusual this winter, and the properties that are on the market in the winter are usually very low end, under $200,000, foreclosure properties, non-maintained properties, people who have to sell in the winter. This year we've really seen a good push of $300,000 and $400,000 properties in the winter, I think partly related to the weather. Those properties have really been eaten up by the buyer. It has alleviated some of the pressure on the market.
Well, Brian, of course, people can hear you here on the fourth Saturday of every month on Handling Change, also spread throughout the weeks here in WCRN, but you also have a very active Facebook.
Absolutely.
So you suggest people check you out, follow your Facebook page?
Yeah, if they take a look at One Worcester Homes on Facebook, it's directly messages right to me. We'll set you up with the agent that's closest to you. We have agents in Keene, New Hampshire, and we have agents all the way into Connecticut. We really work most of the area, and there's no sense in working with someone who's not specific to your area. I'll put you with the agent that makes the most sense. Some prefer listings, some prefer buyers, and putting people in the right position and with the right agent is really important to us.
And, we haven't actually covered this for a few weeks, so let me ask you, how many locations, where are you actually have offices, and what areas do you cover?
Sure. So our first and main office is in Worcester. We have another office on Southbridge Street in Auburn, Central Street in Southbridge, which has been one of our really quickly expanding markets, and we're also down in Putnam, Connecticut, right on Providence Street, which isn't far from 395, and we've really had a lot of expansion down that way. But we're available to cover almost any of the area. We have 70 agents that live all over the state and even into some of the other states around us, and we're able to help wherever you want to go.
Well, again, thank you for stopping in and offering your expertise in real estate, Brian.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for Handling Change. From the Cantiani Insurance Studios, join us each week at 7:30 as we give you the tools to handle the changes in your life. Visit us at handlingchange.info, and of course you can find Brian on Facebook at One Worcester Homes or email him at oneworcesterhomes@gmail.com. For Brian, I'm Joe Mangiacotti.
This is the Joe Mangiacotti Show. We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, welcome back to the final segment here, the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Clinton Savings Bank Studios here on AM 830 WCRN and AM 730 WACE. Our phone number, 617, our text line is 617-297-8388. And to join the conversation, 508-871-7000. To do that, on the line with me is Dr. Larry Fedewa. And you can catch Dr. Larry on Wednesday evenings, Doc, right? Why don't you tell the people where to find you for your show every Wednesday, 7 o'clock still?
Yes, sir. We're on the TuneIn and the Blog Talk Radio Network. Easiest way to listen probably is on the telephone. You can get the information from my website, drlarryonline.com, and you can also see my weekly columns on that website. And actually, if you want to get it sent to you every week, then you can sign up. There's a form that you can use to get it sent to you every week, so you can keep up with what we're trying to help people understand what is going on, and people that really don't have a lot of time to personally go and look at all the intricacies of what's going on in the world, and they don't have time, even a lot of time, to listen to shows like this for a length of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're trying to help people understand in relatively simple terms what's going on.
All right, fantastic. One thing here, hey folks. So Keith Lambert was on last hour from New England Trump Stores. I don't know if you caught that, Dr. Larry, but he's a sponsor here of the show, and this is a guy who couldn't find the red mega hat when he wanted to go see President Trump in Nashua, New Hampshire, a few months ago. And he's not a real political guy, but he supported Trump. So he does this for sports thing. Anyway, he decided he opened up a tent to sell Trump paraphernalia, hats, shirts, everything, sold out. He opened 5 locations throughout New England in 5 weeks. And they're busy 6 days a week from open to close, selling out all the time. He thought it was going to be a Christmas thing. Hasn't slowed down one bit after Christmas, Doctor. So he keeps going. He was just on to tell us about these dog capes that he just got in, the Trump teddy bear, the Trump Valentine's Day mug. So he just sent me some pictures of them. I'll put them up on the Facebook page, guys, so go check them out. Getting back to the issues of the world here today, of course, the presidential campaign going on. You've got the impeachment going on. It's a funny thing because, you know what, they're hitting it, they're doing this, they're repeating themselves, yet outside of the bubble of Washington, the stock market's doing great. The president continues to go forward, full bore ahead, right? Finally, the House got around to putting 3 years after he put together this USMCA, they finally put it through the House. Of course, he signed it, phase 1 of the China deal. But you've got these candidates out there, and I wanted to take a second because Our very own liberal Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren has been slipping in the polls because, like most liberals, once you start asking them a question about their ideas, right, they start to fall apart. There's two things here. One, a couple of weeks ago, she was in New Hampshire, and this was right after the Soleimani was taken out. And the liberals is trying to, they try. Remember when they're trying to tell us that this is World War III coming now, that this was America was wrong for doing this, and because it was Trump. Anything has to do with Trump. Well, she gets confronted by a minister in New Hampshire about Iran. Play that clip there, Shane, of the minister with going against Warren, and this is at one of those town hall meetings that she does.
It's so good to be here with you. I don't care. This is grandfather's in World War II. Your side was ISIS. Your side was Iran. Why are you siding with terrorists for? Why are you siding with terrorists for? My grandfather died in World War II. You're a fraud.
And he is a Democrat, self-identified Democrat. Then she's out there and, she puts all these programs out. And one of the biggest farces that I think she has is when she talks, and this goes across the board, for all the candidates, when they start trying to grab votes by saying, we're going to have free tuition, right? We're going to forgive all these debts, which to me, forget the military-industrial complex. What about the collegiate, the educational industrial complex? This is so asinine because it's such an unfair thing. It's like a program to help feed the elite class, right? Because they try to convince you if you don't go to college or university and get these degrees or multiple degrees, you are less than. You're in flyover country and you don't know how to take care of yourself. You shouldn't even be allowed to vote. Leave it to the intellectuals to vote. And it's such an unfair situation. First of all, we have more administrators in college than we do professors now. What and who is it really benefiting except to create another class of snobs? So she was in Iowa, and like so many of these leftist programs, a dad. Now, when a hardworking dad comes up and he's a little aggravated, and he asks the question about the tuition, that he did everything right. He saved his money. He worked double shifts, took another job. His little girl worked since she was 10 years old. They paid their bills. The guy next door did not save his money, went on vacations and bought expensive trucks and toys to play with, and you're going to forgive his debt. Why is that fair? Well, this is the dad approaching her in Iowa just a couple days ago. Shane, want to play that one? Thanks. So this is an Iowa dad going.
I just want to ask one question. My daughter's getting out of school. I've saved all my money. She doesn't have any student loans. Am I going to get my money back? So you're going to pay for people who didn't save any money, and those of us who did the right thing get screwed.
No, it's not even like that. When we started,
of course we did. My buddy had fun, bought a car, went on vacations. I saved my money. He made more than I did. But I worked a double shift, worked extra. My daughter worked, she was 10. So you're laughing at her. Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. We did the right thing, and we get screwed.
Am I going to get my money back? Of course you're not. And she's chuckling at the guy. So he says, so you're going to pay for the people who didn't save any money. And those of us who did the right thing, we get screwed. She says, yeah. No empathy whatsoever. She thinks this is...
He's going to get his money back. No, she was aghast.
Unbelievable. So here's the thing. It's nobody... Right, they years ago they started to try to convince us that everybody had to go to college and get a degree. My son's a electric welder, and he works in the skyscrapers and stuff like that. And he makes low six figures doing this. And he sends me a meme about these two guys. This one buddy, he goes off, gets a liberal arts degree, 4 years of college. $160,000 in student debt and so forth. The other guy, he becomes an electrician, right? No student loan debt, no debt whatsoever. He makes $93,000 a year, and he's disconnecting his buddy's electricity who can't get a job with his liberal arts degree. You know, and the thing is, you have no. It is your choice to go get that. Meanwhile, and what bothers me with Elizabeth Warren the most, Dr. Larry, here's a woman who took $350,000 a year from Harvard to teach one course, and when they asked her to take a cut so that they could keep the janitors working, she said no. Harvard laid off 28 janitors because they have ridiculous salaries that they pay these, and I'm doing air quotes, professors to teach. You know what? I'm all for online. I ended up getting my degrees going at night and online and so forth. I didn't do the straight to college. I didn't get my doctorate till 2004. I've been 20-some-odd years out of high school, right? I'm okay with the we don't need to put our children face to face with these professors. They want them there to get indoctrinated into that bubble world, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know your take on that. Hey, you want to take a phone call or two, Dr. Larry?
Sure.
All right, 508-871-7000 from the Clinton Savings Bank Studios. Let's go to Mark. Good morning. You're on with myself and Dr. Larry Fedewa. Happy Chinese New Year's to you, Mark.
Happy what?
Chinese New Year, buddy. It starts today. It's the year of the rat.
I'm not Chinese.
That's okay.
I'm not Chinese.
That's
The
okay.
only thing I know about China is Chinese food.
Well, I was just going to say, guess what? You get to have a Mai Tai. That way, I had Mai Tai and champagne for dinner last night.
Oh, did you?
That was served by my authentic Chinese. I mean, this is the way it is now. That's how we roll in my house.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
It does.
Just don't eat it in Wuhan, China.
No. What's on your mind, Mark?
Hey, I want to talk about this little hobgoblin, I call her. That's what she is, a little hobgoblin. That Greta Thunberg.
Oh, Greta.
The hobgoblin. She's always ragging on. She's in Davos or whatever it was.
Yep, she was in Davos.
She was at the G8.
Yep.
The G8 summit.
Yep.
You notice how she never criticizes the three greatest polluters in the world.
About 5 minutes left. 5 minutes.
Yeah.
India, and sub-Saharan Africa. She never criticizes President Xi, the Prime Minister of India, and she never criticizes. She's always glaring at the United States and our president. Now, there's a reason for that. She's hobnobbing all over the world. Who do you think's paying for that?
That is a great question, because she did that whole little trip, that she Instagrammed the whole thing. Well, she's eating, plastic food in front of her and all that stuff, that she's supposed to be this big advocate for the planet. Who is paying for that? Who is paying for her flights? I have no idea. I'd like to know who's bankrolling her.
Corporate America. That's
there you go.
They're picking up the tab for that little hobgoblin as she glares at the President of the United States.
There you go.
And calls him the biggest polluter on the face of the planet.
Which is wrong. China and India put more plastic straws into the ocean than anyone, right? China's putting a coal plant up every other week over there. All it comes to is they just keep looking to America. They want America to foot the bill to clean up everyone else's mess. For some reason...
You know why they look into America?
Because they used to get away with it.
No, I'll tell you the reason why. Because we're the only sovereign constitutional republic left on the planet. And they want to eliminate the idea of democratic constitutional republics. They think it's archaic, and they want to institute international fascism.
Right.
And
all one world order.
batch right.
Yeah, exactly.
3.5. Still got Gene, too.
All right, Mark, thank you very much for the call. I got to take one more call before we got to let Dr. Larry go and wrap up the Joe Mangiacotti Show for today. So let me go to Gene. Gene, good morning. Thanks for holding. You've got about a minute with Dr. Larry.
Well, Joe, you didn't forget me.
Nope.
Okay? So that was wonderful. And Dr. Larry, thank you for coming on again. Thank you for sharing. And you're having your program and getting the truth out there and keeping it out there and doing the reality checks. I have to be a cheerleader here, Dr. Larry. We definitely need it. Joe, I thank you so much. The men of WCRN, every topic is covered, Dr. Larry, that people don't want to talk about. Do you know how precious that is? Do you know how wonderful that is that they came back without limbs for all of our mouths, Dr. Larry? Not my mouth saying Jesus, and I do, what do I do, Joe? The God factor. Because we need that. And Joe, you know something? How arrogant are we really? There are no pillars holding up the stars. Look at this universe that's hanging out there in motion. I mean, God, do you understand? There is a God. Who are we but little dinks? Hello, everybody.
All right, Gene, now focus. Do you have one specific thing that you'd like the good doctor to comment on or talk to him about?
You know, what's going on right now, Dr. Larry, with the impeachment, with all of the evil and corruption and wanting to get Trump out, I say, I hope and pray, and everybody pray, that this wonderful Jay Secular comes out, and he's a Christian, by the way, born again, that he actually comes out and makes an imperative statement under the laws of the land. And really, you know, you talk about focusing. That's what they want us not to do. You know that everything that's going on right now is to deaden everything. It's to confuse everybody. It's absolutely insane what's going on. However, the judge did say and did challenge for the pettiness, I mean, infinitesimal pettiness that's going on. So, Dr. Larry, we thank you so much for being with us. And you also have a telephone number that people can contact you. Isn't that right?
1 minute.
Yeah, Dr. Larry, why don't you run through your contact information and where people can find you and tune into you every Wednesday evening on the, is it Bachelor News Network now they call it?
Yeah. The easiest way to listen is probably the telephone, and that is a telephone number. You just call in regular long distance.
Is that 646 number?
Yes. It's 646-929-0130.
Got it. So what I'll do is I'll put that up on the Joe Mangiacotti
30 seconds
page, Joe Mangiacotti Show, and our site as well.
Good.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, this is going to wrap up for this edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Dr. Larry, thank you for getting up early and joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
All right.
10 seconds.
Keep your eye on what's happening, and I'll be back tomorrow morning, folks, in the Clinton Savings Bank studios to do it all over again from 6 to 8 a.m. You have a good night, folks. Happy Chinese New Year.
It's time to go out with Joe.
This is Out with Joe, brought to you by Nothing Bundt Cake, recently opened in the White City Plaza in Shrewsbury. Chinese New Year starts today, Saturday, the 25th. Chinese New Year, or generally referred to as Lunar New Year globally, is the Chinese festival that celebrates the beginning of a new year on the traditional Chinese calendar. The festival is usually referred to as the Spring Festival in mainland China and is one of several Lunar New Years in Asia,